My name's Matt Boxer. I'm a financial planner by trade. I've spent the last 10 years helping families with their household budget. What I'm going to show you today will mean you can start saving money without spending your nights working through receipts, feeling like what life's not worth living because you're constantly making sacrifices, and best of all, you won't stress about money. You'll feel this massive burden lifted off your shoulders. Now, there's no doubt that budgeting is the best way to focus your expenditure and save money. The problem with budgeting is that it's painful and often goes no further than a spreadsheet for 1 or 2 months. I'm going to show you how to make a budget that works. A budget that combines a number of facts that I've learned over the years that will make saving money a breeze. Now, I know this sounds like a bold promise, and it is, but I will keep it. Also, as a thank you gift, I'll be giving away this goal creation template. The creation of financial goals is vital to financial success. I think it was in The Wizard of Oz that they said, if you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't really matter which direction you head. This will give you a destination. This will tell you where you want to get to. But before we go any further, we have a bit of housekeeping. Firstly, I would suggest that you do a few things before we get into it. I'd suggest you get rid of all the distractions you have buzzing around your computer. You might want to turn off Skype, turn off Facebook, or turn off Messenger. You might want to make sure nothing's downloading, as any downloads might affect the video stream. It might slow it up or pause it or give it problems. You might want to make sure you're in a quiet part of the house and shut the door. If you miss a step because the kids barge in, then the system might not work like the well-oiled machine it's designed. So try and get through all the steps to make it work properly. Also, because I'm a qualified, authorised and licensed financial planner, I have to do a few things that you wouldn't otherwise see in a webinar. Along with my fiduciary responsibility to clients and the ongoing education I have to do, I have to put up disclaimers on every presentation. It basically says that what you hear today is general advice only. I'm not making any specific recommendations to you because I don't know you well enough. I've never met you. Okay, let's get into it. I'm giving you this webinar because despite the technology giving us more control over our money, Australians are struggling to save, and all too often I meet people in their late 50s where it is too late to save for things like paying down their mortgage, let alone having a dignified retirement. As mentioned, I've been a qualified financial planner for over a decade now. In that time, I've helped hundreds of families not only save money, but also afford things like overseas holidays, putting their kids through private schools, upgrading their cars regularly, and retiring earlier on a comfortable income. During this time, I've learned a lot about what works when it comes to saving money and what doesn't work. I know where things fall over and what makes things simple rather than hard. Now, I say simple rather than hard, not easy rather than hard, for a reason. I know saving money is not easy. When I started my career, I was on minimum wage. When I started my business, I had no income for a while. Thankfully, in the 10 years leading up to starting my business, I'd saved over $200,000. So I could afford to not earn some money for a while I got things off the ground. Now, for the skeptics in the room, I did not save that amount because I earned some extraordinary income. My income averaged around $80,000, which I know is good, but it's not what makes the difference. I've worked with hospital orderlies that earn $35,000 a year and save more than business owners who earn $250,000 a year. Okay, let's talk about how you are going to get into a position where you're proud of your bank balance and completely comfortable with what your financial future will look like. Let's talk about the first step. The first step is creating a list of goals. Now, a goal is something that improves your lifestyle. It's not a target for a bank balance or getting a rental property. A goal might be putting your kids through private school or going on a holiday. when you're coming up with goals, don't say I want $1 million. That's a means to an end. What do you want to spend $1 million on? So how I do that with people is I use the following template. And I typically start with the A priority goals, the must-haves. So for me, that would be rolling my car over to another camera because at the moment it's quite an old car. A car's not a huge thing for me in my goals. Funding kids' education down the track. An A priority goal will also be a holiday every year. And in the next 12 months, I'll need to upgrade my computer system. B priority goals, so these are secondary goals. A large international holiday every 2 years. That's pretty important to me. My luxury goals, my kind of out there goals, would be to maybe buy one of those Tesla cars down the track, or maybe set up a philanthropic trust with $300,000. Now, you've got to be specific with goals. You've got to say what the goal is. You've got to know what it is when you achieve it. So it can't just be some general idea of, being financially free. How will you know when you're financially free? You've got to set a date when you're going to achieve it by, or when you plan to achieve it by, and you've got to have a dollar figure how much is needed to do all that. So all those goals, there's dollars, there's time attached, there's how do you know when you achieve it sentence attached to it as well. Now beyond that, there's also housing goals. Where do I want to live? What's the changeover cost going to be? When am I going to want to change my house? Am I going to want to change my house? I might want to retire where I am currently. And then lastly, my retirement goal. When do I want to retire? Going part-time at 55, retiring completely at 65, on how much money? So for me, that's part-time at 55, retiring fully 65 on about $100,000 a year in today's dollars. Now, once you do that, the next step would be to work out how far off those goals are you, how much you need to build your wealth for, but that's kind of beyond the scope of today. Step number 3, draft what you want your lifestyle versus your income to look like. Now, there are plenty of tools online that can help you with this. There's apps and budgeting software. The government's got a spreadsheet you can download, which is a budgeting tool. I've custom made my own because what you really need is you need something that compares your income and expenditure and correctly calculates tax for you. Because some of your items are tax deductible. Some of your expenses are probably tax deductible if you pay for an accountant or you've got some donations or something like that. And it's important to have that calculate correctly so that your tax return's included in your budgeting. So this is what I use. This is an example of one that I did up with a couple a few weeks ago. And we went through with them how much they earn, how much they spend, where they might be underestimating their expenditure because it was the first time they had done a budget. And it showed that they had a theoretical cash flow surplus of $31,000 a year, and you can see that in the bottom left. That gave them some options. That gave them options about paying down debt, saving for goals. Obviously, some of it had to be put away. They were about to have their first child, so we had to put some away for maternity leave and all the prenatal costs. But you need to find a tool that can give you what your theoretical cash flow surplus is. It's a very important figure. In fact, probably the most important figure that you have financially that will determine how quickly you will improve your financial situation. The next is to become motivated to achieve some of your goals. So the only way you're going to do that, saving money for most people isn't that motivating. If something comes along that they want to spend some money on, then they've got some money in the bank account, then bang, they whack it on the credit card. Motivation comes from linking the goals that you created in the earlier step to how much you're saving. So how much are you saving? How much of that needs to go towards travel, to car upgrades, to your retirement, to things that you want to achieve down the track. So let's take a break. Take 10 seconds to think about how you'll feel if you're able to achieve some of those goals. You've got to have an emotional connection to these goals. Now, I know that sounds touchy-feely, but humans are driven by emotions more than we like to admit. So really stop for a moment, think about those goals you wrote down, and think about how it would feel to achieve them. What would these goals do for your family? What would they do for your kids? Now think about what it would be like if you achieved nothing on that list. What would you remember from your life? Would you just be working day to day and living day to day? Now, I am, in my usual unsubtle way, suggesting you need to associate real pleasure with achieving these goals and real pain with not achieving anything, because that's what will drive your motivation to keep you on track to achieve them. Because if you have a link between what you save and achieving those goals, you will be much more likely to save that money, and you'll be much happier to forgo the things that normally suck money out of your budget that really you don't really care about. They're just, you got a bit of money, something's come up, a marketing company's got to you and suggested that you buy something, and away you go. So now you have some motivation to achieve these things, and often there's a bit of a process around achieving that motivation and really achieving the link between your goals and your savings. But now you've got to work out, okay, well, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to achieve those goals? How much am I saving? Am I saving enough? Now, you need to do some maths here often. You need to sit there and go, well, I'm saving X amount a year. These goals all add up to this. If I put that money away, am I going to achieve all these things? Is your theoretical cash flow surplus, the difference between your income and your expenditure, enough to achieve those things? Most of the time I find that it is, if you're smart enough with what you're doing with your money. Some of the times, however, it's not. And if you're in the unfortunate position where your cash flow surplus is not enough to achieve your goals, or your cash flow surplus is negative or zero, which does happen, you've got to make some tough calls. You've got to sit there and don't just bury your head in the sand. You've got to sit there and go, well, I've got to do one of these 4 things. I've got to reduce my goals. I've got to go, well, I'm not going to retire at that age. I'm going to retire later. I'm not going to upgrade my house or upgrade my car. I'm going to push that back or do that differently. Or you can reduce your day-to-day expenditure and go, well, I'm going to have to make sure that instead of $200 a week on groceries, I'm going to keep that under 150. Or you're going to have to find a way to earn more. Not an option for everyone, but some people have a bit of flexibility on how much they can earn. And the last option is to sell an asset. You might have a negative geared property that's costing you a lot, or you might have some stuff that you can sell to pay down debt that will improve your cash flow. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is make it real. You have to actually save this money, and this is the biggest challenge. So a lot of people make the mistake and go, well, okay, I've worked out how much I can save, or how much the budget says I can save. I'm just going to put that amount into a savings account every week, and what's left I'll spend. Now, where this goes wrong is you might get paid fortnightly, and then you take the amount you should be saving and put that into a savings account. And things seem like they're going fine for a couple of weeks, or a couple of fortnights, or even a couple of months. But then some bills crop up, and you've spent, and these bills might happen quarterly. They might be rates, or they might happen once a year when the fridge blows up, or you need to get some car maintenance. But you haven't been putting money aside for that, just the money for your goals, your long-term savings. And all of a sudden you're sitting there and going, well, I've spent all the money every fortnight for the past 6 months that I really needed to be putting some of that aside for some of my bills, or some of my irregular expenses, or my year-to-year holidays, my just Christmas holidays. So the best solution I've seen for that is to reverse the whole situation. It's to have a setup like this, where you have a main savings account. Now, typically that might be an offset account, or a line of credit, or a high interest bank account, and that's where all your income goes, into this main account. All your savings are in there, everything that you can put in there goes in there. And out of that account, you set up 4 regular payments into your expenditure account. Now, in this main account, you shouldn't have a credit card attached. You shouldn't have an EFTPOS card attached. Online only, you do not spend money out of that account. You spend money out of the 4 other accounts that get a regular transfer from that main account. So the day-to-day living account might be for your groceries, your pocket money, your entertainment, your going out to dinner money. And you take what's in your budget and you say, okay, all up, $300 a week is what I've said I'd be comfortable on living for groceries, dining, alcohol and entertainment, petrol, all the stuff that's day to day. So you set up a weekly transfer from your main account into your living account at $300 a week. You do the same for your bills. So all your monthly bills, you add them up, you divide it by 52, and you say, okay, per week, that's how much needs to go into the bills account. And whenever I have a bill, I go to that account, I pay it out of that account. For holidays, you have some money building up for regular holidays. And for irregular expenses, so this is car maintenance, this is house maintenance, this is rolling over fridges and washing machines and couches. This is stuff that doesn't come up every week, every month even, but stuff that you are eventually going to have to spend money on. And what you do is you live on the below the red line essentially, and you ignore the main account. And I can guarantee if your spreadsheet says you're going to save 30 grand a year and you just live on what's below the line, you'll save 30 grand a year, because that's just where the money ends up, in the main account. And you'll know very quickly if you've underestimated expenses on your spreadsheet, because a lot of the times, the first time you do it, it's a guess. How much you spend on groceries, you're guessing. How much you spend on dining, alcohol and entertainment, you're guessing. So this will tell you if you're overspending, because all of a sudden you won't have money in those accounts. And it'll also provide discipline. It'll also mean that if you've only got $300 in your living account, you'll tend to spend it all, but you won't go over it. If you get running low, you'll just pull back on the accelerator a little bit and live within that. And it becomes much easier to manage the day-to-day, the year-to-year, the month-to-month kind of living expenses. And I use that, and I've seen that work tremendously well. So once you've got that right, the next step is about monitoring it. Now, monitoring it, not everyone needs to do. For some people, just having that structure in their bank accounts works fine, because they know that if they spend what's in their accounts, then they're living to their budget and they don't have to worry about spreadsheets. Some people, however, like spreadsheets. I'm one of those people. And they like to monitor what's going on. So here is an example of a monitoring spreadsheet where every month takes 15 minutes, half an hour to add up, to go through the accounts, add them all up, put them in the spreadsheet to show where the expenses are, what's over, what's under, how you're going budget versus actual, on all the different line items in your account. Monitoring, if you monitor something, if you measure something, you'll tend to put more focus on that in your life, and you tend to do better. And that system, that process, I've seen work well. I've seen it work hundreds of times over. I've seen it work for people who, as a combined household income, have only been earning $40,000 a year. And for 5 years prior to doing it, their home loan had been going up. They hadn't saved a cent, they'd been going backwards. But once they started paying down debt at about $15,000, $20,000 a year. I've seen people who were on decent incomes, but just really struggling to save. Everything that came in went out. They just seemed to spend all their money. And once they started doing this, they'd actually started saving $30,000 or $40,000 a year, and they turned around and told me that it didn't even feel like they really changed their lifestyle much. It was just structure and discipline, and suddenly knowing that they're on track for some of those goals meant that they had some real peace of mind in where they were heading. Now, you're probably still here because you want a simple solution to make this happen. You're here because you want to save money to achieve the goals that you laid out in step one. You're here because what you're currently doing isn't really getting the results that you want. Well, I can help. I am here to help. If you want help to get the results that I've just talked about, I'm excited to show you something that I'm about to release to the market. If you could save $4,000 a year, you might be able to pay off your $400,000 home loan if it was at 7%, 8.4 years quicker, saving $180,000 in interest. You might be able to take that overseas trip. You'll be able to establish an emergency fund so that you don't panic when you see a rego bill and think it might be a speeding ticket in the mail. Saving money is not small biscuits. It makes a big difference. Traditionally, I've offered cash flow management services and budgeting as part of an integrated financial plan that actually costs thousands of dollars a year. Those case studies that I talked about earlier were using that service, for which saving money and budgeting is a small part of it. I'm looking at breaking that service out into a standalone package, a standalone service, and offering it. But before I offer it to the broader market, I'm looking to get some case studies. So I'm looking to get about 10 people to go through a program at a discounted price. The reason why you're going to be getting this service at such an affordable rate is because, as you can see, I'd like some success stories, and I'd like to be able to show people how it's helped people save. So what I'm offering is a 5-hour cash flow management coaching program for $150. It will include a face-to-face meeting to help you discover and formalize your goals, a budget creation session which will help you set up a spending plan and help you link those goals to your spending plan. It will help you set up your account, so I'll help you set up your account and get the right money flowing into the right accounts. I'll provide the monthly cash flow tracking spreadsheets and all the tools required, and I'll also include 3 reviews of how you're going. So for the 3-month intervals, I'll give you a call and we'll catch up about how you're traveling. The expected outcomes you should see from this is a well-founded list of goals with nothing important missed. Often people, when they create their goals, don't think about a few things. The common ones are car upgrades, or helping their kids out, or changing house. They kind of are so focused on the here and now they miss some of the larger, bigger ones. You'll get an accurate budget. I can help go through, what people would normally spend in your situation if you're unsure about different items. You'll get a bulletproof way of not accidentally spending money that you wanted to go towards your A priority goals on things that aren't quite so important to you. And now that you can save money, you'll be able to pay off your debt faster, which means you'll save more money. And with more money, you can consider investments, which will give you a passive income, which will mean you'll save more money, which will mean you can do things that you haven't even considered yet. You can have more fun. You can achieve things that aren't even on your goal list right now because you never dreamt they were possible. When I was an employee, my boss charged me out at about $300 an hour. So that would make this program about $1,500. And I'm charging myself out at about $30 an hour. So believe me when I tell you, I'm not going to be offering this at $150 beyond the 10 case studies that I really need. And I'll tell you what, if after the first 2 hours of the coaching you don't find tremendous value in the meetings, then I won't even charge you a cent. Okay, so on the right of the page, if you would like to take me up on this offer, there should be a button called Register for Coaching. Now put your credit card away. I won't charge you anything until we meet, because then you'll know I'm not some internet scam. You'll see my office and all the rest. When you click the button, it'll open up a contact form. All you need to do is put your name and your phone number in there and hit send, and then I'll give you a call and we'll arrange a time to meet. The price of $150 I can commit to until the end of January, but after that I'd likely be increasing the price. So put your name and number in, click register for coaching, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to open this up to Q&A. You can type in the chat box if you have any questions from this session, or you'd want to know more about different things. Put it in the chat box and I'll answer them. If you have any questions about how I charge, or if there's anything beyond budgeting you'd like to know about, now's the time to ask. Let me just move to the Q&A section.